Welcome in. Welcome into the channel. My name's Craig, and this, my friends, this is where we put the spotlight onto German football. This is our Bundesliga Match Day 25 review show. That's right, we've got 23 goals coming up, which is one more than Match Day 24. The title race, that is well and truly still on. However, Leverkusen do miss a golden opportunity to close the gap to Munich. Mainz, well, they continue to mesmerise with a statement win away to Monchengladbach. And Dortmund, well, Dortmund are dismal again, although this time it was at home. With all the action that we've got to review, why don't you go and get yourself a drink, come back and get comfortable, and let me walk you through all the action from Match Day 25. What time is it? It's Bundesliga time! Let's kick off our Match Day 25 review show with Monchengladbach at home to Mainz. Gladbach succumbed to a fearless Mainz team under the inspired leadership of Bo Henriksen. Mainz were fluid in open play, plus clinical from set pieces. The scorers for Mainz were Paul Nebel on 39, Dominic Kerr on 48. That central midfielder, by the way, has also made 4 interceptions and 10 clearances too. Gladbach brought it back to 2-1 with a goal by Stefan Leiner on the 73rd minute off the back of a Robin Hack cross. Instagram favourite on this show. Mainz then secured the win through Nadim Amiri, who had a brilliant game, on the 77th minute. His key passes proved to be the difference in this game. My one to watch for Gladbach was Rocco Wright. Sadly, he didn't feature. He's recovering from a toe injury. So I just thought, let's take a look at Nathan Ngumu instead. He came up with 4 crosses, 2 dribbles and 1 key pass. My one to watch for Mainz was Jonathan Burkhout. Burkhout? Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, he's a big scorer this season, and he was involved in the build-up to the opening goal. It was his pass out wide to the left to Jae-Sung Lee for the opening goal, which was converted by Paul Nebel. That's 2 assists now for Lee, by the way, for the season. And outside of that, Burkhout, well, he came up with 2 shots. He had 1 on target and he won 1 aerial duel. Mainz have now gone on to win 4 in a row. 3 of those are on the road, by the way. And they're trading places. Great movie. Trading places is a theme of the week. So Mainz now trade places with Frankfurt. More on their game soon. They go into 3rd, while Gladbach, well, they swap 8th to 9th. That's to end match day 25th and 9th, and that makes them only 2 points off Leipzig, with the last European spot up for grabs for next season, which is Europa Conference League. As for my prediction, of all the predictions that I made in match day 25, this was my closest, which doesn't say a lot for how I actually got on, which we'll get into. This was my closest effort. I went for a 2-1 Mainz away win. Mainz surpassed that with 3-1. I mean, I'm happy for them. It's just another L in the column for me. Leverkusen 0, Werder Bremen 2. Now, who saw that coming? I'll be honest, not me, and not many of you either, if you're going to be honest with yourselves. Despite controlling the game with 73% possession, Bremen managed to tackle harder. They won 19 tackles, by the way. That's 9 between both left and right back. And for this game at least, they were absolutely clinical, scoring 2 goals from the 7 shots that they had on target. My one to watch from Bremen, just jumping into it, was Romano Schmidt. You may remember his name from the previous show. Well, I called him out because he scored the last time the 2 sides met back in October. He scored a last-gasp equaliser for a 2-2 draw, and he did it again in this game. He found himself wide open in front of goal. That's off the back of Jan Starger managing to wriggle between 3 bewildered Bayer Leverkusen defenders before squaring it and then Schmidt just managed to stroke the ball home past Recchi. That's now, like I say, Schmidt's second goal against Leverkusen this season. Real Nico must have been his beer must have been all over the wall. And not just content with 1-0. Nemanja, sounds good. Nemanja, he managed to seal it on the 94th minute, and by that point the Leverkusen defence was scrambled like an egg. To be fair, it could have been 3 or 4-0. Like Leverkusen, well, they were saved by the offside flag and some VAR calls. Leverkusen. They've only lost 2 now all season. First one was back on match day 2 to Leipzig in a 3-2er, where they was on the wrong end of it. And this game against Bremen, which sadly for Leverkusen ends a 22-game unbeaten streak. What's the impact on the title? Well, I'll say it's a psychological impact, because they had the golden opportunity, did Leverkusen, to close that gap on Munich. That's on the back of Munich slipping up, which we'll get into very soon. And actually, while I'm recording this, Florian Wirtz is now going to be out for a while, and he didn't play last night in the Champions League knockout game against Munich, which unfortunately Munich went on to unceremoniously dump Leverkusen out of the tournament 5-0 on aggregate. My Leverkusen one to watch, well, if you could have blinked and missed it, was Granit Xhaka. Ex-Arsenal, isn't he, Gonzo? He didn't really have an impact on the game going forward. He put in one cross. He did, however, remain committed to his defensive midfielder duties. He had 55 touches, a 92% pass completion rate, and he won 1 tackle. Bremen, well, they halt a spiralling 4-game losing streak. They remain in 12th on 33 points. Leverkusen, like I say, they'll be kicking themselves because they lost the chance to close that gap on Munich. So they remain 8 points behind Munich in second place. As for my prediction, correct scoreline. I did come up with 2-0 just for the wrong team. And if you thought that Leverkusen result was off, what happened in Munich was wild. Bochum, well, they played the role of party crashers. Their smash and grab 3-2 win, coming after being 2-0 down as well. Yeah, they were 2-0 down inside of 28 minutes. 2 goals there from Rafael Guerreiro. The Polinia red card, well, that on 42 minutes, well, that was a turning point. Munich's defence after that point appeared to go AWOL. It wasn't a good day for the centre-back pairing of Eric Dyer and Josip Stanisic. The young keeper on debut, by the way, Yunus Erbig, he looked tiny. But then again, I suppose we are making that comparison to Manny Neuer. Played all right. It wasn't really blamed for any of the goals. Bochum scored 2, and that was against 10 men. But take nothing away from them, though. Sissoko and Beru, well, they held firm, that team. That's despite Vincent Kompany with his big-brained head throwing on 5 of his big hitters midway through the second half to try and turn the game around. They were all being rested, by the way, for the Champions League game, which again at time of recording was last night, which they went on to win. So, all right, dropped points in the league, but as it happened, didn't really have an impact and still managed to progress through to the Champions League next round. Right, so one of my ones to watch from Munich, from their galaxy of stars, was Jamil Musiala. He came off the bench, like I say, at 70-ish minute. Had a bit of an impact, actually. He had 1 shot, which was on target. And if I recall, that was a bullet header that was tipped over the bar from Timo Horn, who had an outstanding game, by the way. I mean, you look at the scoreline and you say, well, he's conceded 2, but it's the fact that he kept out the rest from a Munich team, which again started off as a B team and then ended up being a team that was close to what played in the Champions League only last night. Back to Musiala, 1 shot on target, 4 dribbles, and he put in 1 cross. That I believe was for a Harry Kane effort late on. Didn't change anything really. My one to watch for Bochum was Maximilian Vitek. We had fun with this in the preview. He had one shot, one key pass, made 2 tackles, a key interception, and 5 clearances. Just for the stat records, the last time Bochum won away at Munich, it wasn't in the Allianz. It was where Munich used to play their home games, in the Olympia Stadion. It was a 2-0 away win. It was in 1991/92 season. And some of you might like this. A 23-year-old Stefan Effenberg was in the Munich lineup that day. A team managed by Jupp Heynckes, first time round. As fate would have it, and I've covered this already, no spoilers on this show, Leverkusen lost 2-0 at home to Bremen, so it's not really changed anything at the top of the table. Munich remain 8 points clear. That's with 11 games to go in this season. Bochum came into that Munich game on 16th, which was 4 points adrift of St. Pauli. However, with that combination of Bochum's win, and we will be rinsing this, and by the way, it was their first win away this season. Last show we were celebrating Holstein Kiel with their historic first ever away win in the Bundesliga. Well, this week, Bochum managed to get a win in that column. That was their first away win this season. And St. Pauli, well, they came up with a 1-1 draw, a respectable 1-1 draw, I should add, by Wolfsburg. But that means that for Bochum, well, they've closed the gap now to St. Pauli to just 2 points. My prediction, wrong again. As I'm sure all of us were, right? We all thought this was a 3-1 Munich home banker. Who says the Bundesliga is predictable? After a promising start to his reign, it feels like Dortmund under Niko Kovac, well, they're regressing. They failed to convert 72% possession, 584 passes and 12 corners. Plus they made an absolute hash of their 15 shots by only landing 1 on target. Augsburg, meanwhile, well, they sat deep, they soaked up the play, and they scored from a set piece. And if you've seen the highlights, where was the defending? The goal for Augsburg came from my one to watch, Marius Wolf. His one key pass was that free kick. He put in an inch perfect cross, which landed just right on the head of our favourite Dutch player to pronounce, Jeffrey Guilewu. I feel like I'm getting better at this. Jeffrey Guilewu, he's actually the captain as well, who ran onto it. Like I say, he looped his header just over a despairing Gregory Kobel for 1-0. All right, Dortmund had an equaliser chalked off by VAR for offside. Similarly, Augsburg, well, they fell foul to the same treatment. They had 2 goals that were disallowed by VAR for offside. One saved the blushes of Sally Ozcan. Again, check that out. Would have been a comedy own goal. My one to watch, Gonzo favourite, because he was once linked numerous times with Arsenal, was Julian Brandt. On this occasion, the luxury player, well, he blew cold. He had 1 shot, was caught offside once. He did manage to put in 4 crosses and came away with an 85.3% pass completion rate. Dortmund staying 10th on 35 points. That's 4 points off Leipzig in the European spots for next season. For a team of Dortmund's stature, though, really, they're 7 points behind Europe, which is where they should be, right? They should be finishing top 4 and qualifying for the Champions League. That win for Augsburg, well, that brings them now level on points with Dortmund in 11th, and it keeps their European dreams very much alive. My prediction, I went for 0-0, got it wrong again. 1-1 then in the game between Wolfsburg and St. Pauli. St. Pauli continued to frustrate teams away from home. They went 1-0 up in this game. There's a goal on the 38th minute from a corner by a blonde defender, Sieb van der Heide. Assist there from Socorro Jackson Irvine. Wolfsburg, especially late on, tried to pass and dribble their way around St. Pauli, but credit to my one to watch for St. Pauli, Philip Treyu. He stood firm. He won 4 tackles and made 5 clearances. That's also while making 2 key passes at the danger end and having a shot of his own. The Wolfsburg equaliser, it came via the penalty spot. It was a soft foul on the substitute Jacob Kaminski. It was converted by my one to watch in this game, Mohamed Datsamora. Yeah, the Algerian striker, he had one of 2 shots on target. That's his second penalty that he scored this season, and he's now on 10 goals as well. Wolfsburg, well, that's their 4th consecutive draw at home, and they miss a chance to leapfrog Leipzig into the European places. As it is, they're only a point behind in 7th on 38 points. With that draw ends a nasty run of 4 straight defeats for St. Pauli. No movement in the table for them. They remain in 15th. The difference being that Union Berlin are just 4 points behind them now in 14th. And with that Bochum win, yeah, we'll keep rinsing it. Well, they're only 2 points off St. Pauli in 16th. There is a sect puncture coming up. Match day 26. That's St. Pauli. Well, they take on Hoffenheimer at home, whereas Bochum, they host a stumbling Frankfurt. As for a prediction, wrong again. I went 2-0 Wolfsburg. Holstein Kiel 2, Stuttgart 2. The Kiel fight continues, although you feel like it's a fight for pride at this point. They are 3 points behind Bochum in 16th and 5 off St. Pauli. Stuttgart were clinical. They scored from their only 2 shots on target, taking an early lead through a Jamie Llewellyn goal on the 15th minute. Kiel then transformed the game. In fact, it was Steven Skripski. That's going to need an overlay. Yeah, Steven Skripski transformed the game, actually, single-handedly, because they went from 1-0 down to 2-1 up. Side note, the last 6 shots from Steven Skripski have all gone in. What a magnet for goals. There was a straight card for Stuttgart. Their Greek-Swiss, tasty combo. Yep, Stuttgart's Greek-Swiss player Leonardis Sturgu, although it didn't really have an impact on the game too much. Well, not the result anyway. In fact, don't they always say that teams with 10 men play better? And that's what happened. Stuttgart should be thankful that it was only Kiel that they were up against, because with 10 men against a much better side, well, somebody else would have absolutely made them pay. As it was, Kiel only made 9 passes, or key passes, sorry, and retained 53% of the ball. However, with a better quality of finish, better quality of players, then they might well have converted their 17 shots. As it was, only 15 ended up on target. It feels like this experience of playing against 10 men, though, is going to serve Kiel well in future, whether that's another season consecutively in the Bundesliga or whether they drop down and consolidate for a few seasons. A Stuttgart favourite of ours, the tall Nick Voltemade. That's getting better, isn't it? Nick Voltemade, a piece of brilliant technical skill, managed to beat his man and somehow cut the ball back for Ermindine Demirich to equalise on the 55th minute. My one to watch for Holstein Kiel was Finn Porath. He played 20 minutes. He came off the bench. 8 touches, 2 passes, 2 crosses. That's all he really registered. The one to watch for Stuttgart, Atakan Kalazar. 1 shot on target, 42 passes. He had more defensive work to do, what he would do after his Greek-Swiss mate was sent off. And that defensive work came in the shape of 1 tackle and 4 important clearances. As mentioned, Kiel remain in 17th since Bochum's smash and grab away win at Munich, and especially with that draw for St. Pauli away to Wolfsburg. Kiel and Heidenheim, Crystal Palace, well, they lock horns in their own sect puncture in match day 26. And that's going to have a significant impact at the bottom of the table. Stuttgart, well, they moved back up to 8th on 37 points. That's after Gladbach suffered that galling home defeat to Mainz. Whereas Stuttgart, they could impact the title race with a home tie against Leverkusen coming up in match day 26th. Where did that prediction land then? Another L. Another L, I'm afraid. I went for a 1-0 away win to Stuttgart. Freiburg versus Leipzig, 0-0. Two teams played most of this match in what football manager terms would be cautious mode. In neither team wanted to make a mistake, certainly not lose the game. Freiburg forced Leipzig's defence into making more tackles, who then came out on top 22 times with 27 clearances. Leipzig are still looking for that away win. The last one came back in match day 13. And with better finishing, well, it could have done. Leipzig peppered the Freiburg goal with 18 shots, only 3 of which ended up being on target. That came off the back of 17 key passes too. Freiburg's defence won more defensive headers. Philipp Lienhardt, well, he should be renamed Philip the Lionheart because of his aerial dominance. He won 4 aerial duels, he made 2 clearances and a blocked shot. I suppose when all said and done, Leipzig were up against Noah Atabolu. The Freiburg keeper's now racked up his 10th clean sheet of the season. He's also set a new club record, by the way, by going 576 consecutive minutes without conceding a goal. Clap that in. My one to watch for Freiburg was Max Eggestein. He covered 11 kilometres, won 3 tackles, made 1 interception and was behind 3 clearances. One to watch for Leipzig was Riddle Baku. 2 shots, made 2 key passes and 1 dribble. He is a winger after all. Freiburg, well, they're unbeaten in 6th. Leipzig have only won 1 in 5, and the 2 sides remain as you were in 5th and 6th place, respectively. As for the prediction, got it wrong again, because I went for a Leipzig 1-0 away win. Frankfurt against Union Berlin. Can I just check that you're sitting down like I am? I only ask because I'm about to volley a cliche right at you. This was a game of 2 halves. Straight face. First half, the Eagles of Frankfurt were soaring so high. So high, in fact, you'd have to find them on Google Earth. They were 1-0 up early on, thanks to a Mishu Batshuayi goal in the 13th minute. And it was at that point where you just felt this Frankfurt team are going to smash this Union Berlin wall right up. In that first half, they had 5 shots, 3 were on target, dominated the possession with 65% and had a ball recovery time of less than 10 seconds. We come into the second half and Stefan Baumgart, the peak cap-wearing manager of Union Berlin, well, he made 2 changes that absolutely swung the game back round in their favour. He threw on Benedikt Hollerbach along with Andras Schaffer, both into the action, and the impact was instant. As Union Berlin started to force the play, they were winning balls, they were passing down the pitch, and managing to capture some ground with some clinical set pieces. Leopold Queffield, that'll do. Queffield, well, he scored his first goal of the season from a corner, and that was on the 62nd minute. Woo Yong Jeong, called out previously in one of these episodes, well, he came off the bench to score what turned out to be the winning goal for Union Berlin on the 78th minute. That's his 3rd goal of the season, and it, like I say, completely turned this tie around. you've got to give credit to Stefan Baumgart for his managerial decision making. One of those decisions that Stefan Baumgart made, like I say, was throwing on Benedikt Hollerbach. Well, he made it 3-1. That was after a great pick out in the centre by Young, whipping that ball across. However, it was ruled out by VAR for offside. Hugo Ekitike, well, he had a chance to level the scores with a penalty in the 95th minute. However, that was saved by the Norwegian hero Fredrik Ranau, his third save of the season so far. And that meant that Stefan Baumgart's Berliners stole all 3 points. He even managed to pick up a yellow card, shouting a volley of abuse at all the assistants referees at full time. Now, you didn't need to lip read to really understand what he was saying. Just listen to those caustic German vowels. My one to watch for Frankfurt was Nathaniel Brown. 78 touches, 1 key pass, 1 dribble, 2 tackles and 4 clearances. Yeah, Brown was busy. As for Union Berlin, my pick-out was Andre Ilic. 31 touches, 3 shots on target, and actually Union Berlin go on to score from a corner that comes about as a result of one of his shots, which is blocked, and like I say, goes out for a corner. Frankfurt slip off their 3rd place perch into 4th, and they trade places with Mainz, who go up into 3rd. Dino Topmoller's Frankfurt have just stuttered the last few weeks. His defence looks like it's ready for a rest, or should that be a reset? They've now lost 3 in a row, conceding 10 goals. Union Berlin, well, they stopped the 3-game losing streak with that away win. They remain in 14th, however. They're opened up a 4-point gap to St. Pauli. My prediction, yeah, it's another loss. I sincerely had Frankfurt down as 2-0 winners. I thought they were going to right some of the previous wrongs. And at half-time, it looked odds on. A game of 2 halves, don't forget that cliche. Hoffenheim at home to Heidenheim, the Battle of the Heims. Now, either side, or either Heim, will feel they should have won this game. But with only 10 wins in 50 matches between them, it's that lack of finishing in the quality department that ultimately ended up producing a draw. Heidenheim, well, they were attacking like a team desperate for the points. 23 shots, but only 5 on target. Interesting that 64% of their shots came inside the Hoffenheim box. And whilst they looked to capitalise on 9 set pieces, it was Hoffenheim at fault, really, because they kept giving away a lot of free kicks around the box. Well, they just couldn't find a way, not in that first half anyway, to score that elusive goal. And when it was Heidenheim's turn to be under pressure from Hoffenheim, well, that was from 26 crosses and a lot of long-range shooting, many of which that came in from our golden boy Tom Bischoff. Well, the Heidenheim defence, well, they held firm. In fact, they produced 17 successful tackles, 45 clearances and blocked 6 goal-bound shots. A lot of courage there for the Heidenheim team. Well, they needed to be courageous because they're just stuck at the bottom. Haris Tabakovic, well, he broke the deadlock on the 34th minute. That's his second of the season, which has been bit part, really, because most of that time the strikers came off the bench. Now, Frank Schmidt, and for those that watch the Bundesliga will get that reference, or that gesture, I should say. Frank Schmidt's Heidenheim, they rallied back in the second half, and that's all credit to a Frank Schmidt-inspired substitution. Yes, he decided to throw on the Georgian striker, getting ready for this one, Budu Zivivadze. Zivivadze? Cue the overlay. Hoffenheim's quest for a clean sheet at home, well, that record now stretches to 33 games, and that was following an equaliser by that man that came on at half-time, Budu Zivivadze. That was the 65th minute, and that goal came off the back of an assist from our one to watch from Heidenheim, Niklas Dorsch. Dorsch, he was in on the action, 37 touches, 2 key passes, one of which led to that goal from Budu, and also won 2 aerial duels. My one to watch for Hoffenheim was Finn Becker. 1 shot, and that was on target. He put in 3 crosses, made 2 dribbles, and was behind 1 key pass. Hoffenheim, well, they're now unbeaten in 4, although they remain in 13th, albeit level on points, on 26 with Union Berlin. No European adventure on the cards for them, sadly. No, it's not happening. It's not happening, sadly. Heidenheim, meanwhile, they stay rooted to the bottom, despite Frank Smith's inspired substitutions. That point keeps them within a point of Holstein Kiel. However, Holstein Kiel, well, they're just proving that they can keep fighting. They got that 2-2 with Stuttgart. The prediction, well, that completes the whitewash of L's. I had this down as a Hoffenheim 1-0 home win. Didn't happen, did it? Well, that wraps up all our coverage of the action with the goals. Let's take a quick look at the top performers charts for the categories of leading goal scorer, assist maker, clean sheets, and then we'll have a quick look at the table, both top and bottom, or bottom and top, so I should say. To be honest, there's been no changes to this short list of people who are the leading goal scorers. Harry Kane, well, he hasn't scored in a few now in the Bundesliga. However, again, at time of recording, this is the morning after, he did score against Leverkusen in the Champions League, and he assisted one. It's that crucial goal there that, as a side note, that means he's scored 10 in Europe now this season, which is the most that any English player has ever scored in the Champions League in one single season. So, big up to Harry Kane there. Otherwise, no, Leverkusen drew a blank because they lost 2-0 at home to Bremen. Omar Mamouche, well, he's not there. Bergkamp, no, didn't score, but he was influential in his team's 3-1 win away at Gladbach. Girassi, no, well, the whole team drew a blank because they lost 1-0 at home to Augsburg. And Tim Kleindis didn't get in on the action either because his Monchengladbach lost at home to Jonathan Bergkamp's Mainz 05. So, yes, the top goal scorers list hasn't changed. Harry Kane still out front with 21 so far this season, with 11 games to go. Similarly, no changes to the assist makers either. This shortlist remains how it was. The one call out though is that Leverkusen will be without their playmaker Florian Wirtz for a few weeks because he came on as a substitute in that recent game against Werder Bremen and got injured. So yeah, he didn't play in the Champions League last night. It's probably one of the reasons why they weren't managed to overturn that 3-goal deficit to Munich. Yeah, otherwise it's as you were. Oh, I suppose the other call out is Mohamed Amora. He scored a penalty in the Wolfsburg game to come back from 1-0 down to St. Pauli. Otherwise, as you were. As we look at the keepers, a few changes and one new entrant. Peter Glass is now registered 12 clean sheets because of Leipzig's 0-0 draw to Freiburg. Noah Atabulu, record breaker for longest consecutive minutes without conceding a goal for Freiburg, 576 minutes, and his 10th clean sheet of the season in that same game against Leipzig. Manny Neuer didn't play. Mainz conceded one in their 3-1 away win to Gladbach. St. Pauli, well, that was 1-1 with Wolfsburg. Finn Darman joins the list with 7 clean sheets, the latest of which that puts him on that list was that Augsburg's 1-0 away win to Borussia Dortmund. So yeah, there you go. Peter Galassi though, Golden Glove currently out up front with 12. taking a look at the bottom half of the Bundesliga table first. So after 25 games, I see that my ugly mug's covering the bottom two results for the two teams. Anyway, Heidenheim, as we've talked about, they fought back for a 1-1 draw away to Hoffenheim. Holstein Kiel, well, they drew at home 2-2 to a 10-man Stuttgart team. Bochum, for the final time, congratulations for achieving their first away win of the season by spoiling Munich's 125th anniversary party. Still looks pretty bleak though, right? Heidenheim on 16 points, Holstein Kiel on 17, Bochum on 20. A 2-point gap between Bochum and St. Pauli. That's after St. Pauli's 1-1 draw away to Wolfsburg. And Union Berlin, well, they started to stretch away a little bit. 6 points now between Bochum and Union Berlin. That's after coming back from 1-0 down to Frankfurt and then turning that second half around with a 2-1 win. Hoffenheim, as we've mentioned, well, they were the other half of that 1-0 draw with Heidenheim. And Werder, again, out of nowhere, pulling off a 2-0 win against Leverkusen and seriously denting Leverkusen's title running hopes. Augsburg and Dortmund, neck and neck on 35 points. And I think that is the cut-off, we decided. The cut-off for European places next season, or the European race. I think it starts with Augsburg, Dortmund, and then includes the other 9 teams. What's fascinating is that there are only 4 points separating 6 teams. And I've got to mentally take you back to the bottom half of the table. But from Augsburg upwards, so Augsburg, Dortmund, Gladbach, Stuttgart, Wolfsburg and Leipzig, that's 4 points separate 6 teams, which just proves how condensed the Bundesliga is becoming in that sort of middle section, or in other words, the race for the European places. As it currently stands, Leipzig are in 6th, or they're occupying the last European spot, and that's for the Conference League. Freiburg are in 5th, that's a Europa League. Frankfurt and Mainz, well, they've traded places. Again, great film, classic. In 4th and 3rd, respectively. And then, as we've covered it, probably to death in this episode, Leverkusen missed the opportunity to catch Bayern and close the gap. The gap remains 8 points still to Munich at the top of the league, with 11 games to go. Just a quick side note to go back to Augsburg, because that seems to be fascinated. They've been in the Bundesliga now for 13 consecutive seasons. And only once have they competed in Europe. That was the Europa League, in which they qualified for in 2015/16. That's having finished 5th the season before with ex-Arsenal goalkeeper Alex Manninger. Now, in that Europa League campaign, well, they made it out of the group, winning 3 out of their 6 games. They progressed, sadly, no further than the round of 32, having been knocked out by Liverpool. Only 1-0, I should add, as well, over 2 legs. That goal came at Anfield quite early on. I believe it was a James Milner penalty on the 6th minute. What's of note, though, is that a certain Emre Can was in the midfield for Liverpool on that night. So, Augsburg on this crazy... Could they make this crazy run into Europe happen? A competition that they've not been in for 9 years? Who knows? Again, with 11 games to go, we'll cover all the action here on the German Football Spotlight channel. So there you have it. All 23 goals covered from match day 25. If you've stuck through the video this far, then, you're a super fan. And I'm super grateful. I really am. How about a cheeky like, though, please? Oh, go on, Mrs. Doyle style. You know you can do it. On a serious note, though, I know I'm trying to take more than Harry Kane on the press. That like, though, that seriously helps us spread awareness of the channel. Yeah, we're small now, but we're growing all the time. Honestly, we really are. We've got a preview of all the games from match day 26 coming up soon. Please make sure that you subscribe, because then you'll know when that episode drops. And all that remains to be said is that I've been Craig, he's been Gonzo, and this, yes, this, my friends, is where we put the spotlight onto German football. Repeat after me. Auf Wiedersehen.